products, to train your different employees on those different products. And often you come also across some incompatibilities, or also, if one employee is leaving you, then you need to find another employee which you need to train again on multiple products, right? So the time that we as an MSP are investing is often getting forgotten and never considered in the price discussion, which is very crucial to say, I probably pay a bit more for a solution, but I can leverage all this technology under one single platform. I have to train my employees on one single product that allows me to do all my services at once. I maximize my overview, I maximize my monitoring capabilities, and I save a lot of time and money when it comes to my internal costs. So that's also one very important thing. If you're moving to an MSP solution, you want to be an MSP that is not required to deal with multiple solutions, but you want to have one single overview that allows you to save time and increase your profitability across your employees. The fourth approach would be the ecosystem, which is docking into the previous described pillar. The ecosystem is important because, as I mentioned, it offers you a broad base of features that you can leverage from one single platform. But at the same time, if you are using other products that are not part of the SolarWinds suite, you have the ability to integrate them, to monitor them, and make sure that all those products that you have around your customers are captured by the main platform, and allow you to provide feedback so that you can decide the next steps that you want to take in action to help your customer. And we talked about a lot about technology and features, but another important thing that we stand out compared to our competition is our learning and insights that we provide. We have a platform that is called the Success Center, which includes more than 100 hours of content provided by industry experts, provided by our management, by ourselves, that addresses different departments within the company, right? So if you're in sales, you find content for salespeople. If you're in marketing, you can leverage marketing content. You want to know how you want to build your business into a successful MSP, then there is a management series. You want to hire new employees and don't know how to compensate them or how to build a successful sales compensation plan, there's also part of this. So this is very important. Often, when you become an MSP, it's changing the mindset, right? So every one of us is used to deal with the reselling world. So you buy a product for 100, you have your 20% discount, you buy it for 80, you sell it for 100, and it's easy, right? When it's transitioning to an MSP, it's totally different because often there is no recommended list price. So you buy it for 100, and then it's up to you to define a price tag for the services, because nobody can tell you how much your service should cost. We can provide you guidelines, we can share with you information how other successful MSPs are doing this around the world, but at the end, you need to change the way you're thinking in order to become a successful MSP. So it's a learning process. And in the learning process, there are different type of customers, but also the market needs to be understandable, right? So if we look at the market pyramid of MSPs, we see that the mid-market, for example, they're spending much more cost on a yearly spend per employees for those IT services, right? So a big to medium-sized enterprise is spending average $15,000 to $17,000 per user on annual base, which includes, licenses, the salary, it includes new devices, new software, right? So it's really easy to get up to this bigger values, right? And for the SMB market, it's probably going to be around a $2,000 per annual spend per user, right? So where is the MSP market really successful? So the MSP market, as you probably know, is for that segment successful where you don't have a customer that has his own IT department, right? So this would be typically between 1 to 99 users. So from the SOHO to the small medium business, those customers have a lot of IT environment. They use obviously internet, they use computer, printer, and everything that is related to do their job, right? But they probably are too small to justify the cost of an internal IT department to manage themselves on an ongoing base, right? So that's actually the perfect target for approaching those customers within MSP model, because you as the IT expert, right, you can approach those customers and make sure that they trust you or the IT environment so that you can manage them. For bigger markets, it's not impossible, because those companies, they surely have an IT department. They probably are so big that are segmenting their IT department, that they have one department for main IT, one department for security, which is also an important topic that we are going to approach today. And you can help them by providing the same solutions, just to focus on specific needs on the business. For example, they want to improve their patch management. Let's use SolarWinds only for patch management. They want to focus mainly on backup solution. We can provide backup as well. So there are different opportunities for all type of customers, which we can support. Also, it's important to understand the SMB market reality. Now, we have segmented our customer market in 4 different buckets, right? So we have, for example, the reactive customer, which, a sort of IT services. He mainly provides remote on-site support. This is the most unpredictable business, because typically the MSP who is operating on break fix is not providing actually proactively security, but is waiting that the customer is calling him to provide some solution. He has an issue, so I travel over to my customer. I fix the existing software and support that he has. When it comes to cloud services, I probably monitor some Office 365. And on professional services, it's just project work or procurement assistance. So it's a business scheme that is very, very interesting to approach to move to the MSP model. Bit more mature MSP, which is a la carte, right? Which is more a la carte, they have a specific software license requirement, right? It could be light monitoring, it could be some automated services. When it comes to security, we usually see customers approaching them with antivirus, patch management, backup, mail, or just auditing. We manage documents when it comes to backup, and we obviously manage some Office 365 and probably some other cloud services, right? On the professional service, it's very similar. It's project work, procurement assistance, and reporting. Once I have several customers in the a la carte, I'm probably going to start creating some bundles, right? Which would be my proactive offering. In this case, I have already created some checklists with includes specific services that me as a company is providing for the IT services. For the security, I'm just focusing on core security, on end user and security data. I focus on a backup. When it comes to cloud, probably I have also the trust from the customer that I can provide some cloud services. And as you can see in the professional services, I'm not just considered to be the normal IT guy, but I'm considered to be their virtual CTO. So I'm considered as being the external company that provides guidance and information and suggestion on how they should build up their IT environment. The managed service category is on top of this. So once it is that way that an MSP is very mature and has managed to get the trust of their customers, they want to make sure that they have fully automation in place. And by this, I mean that they need to make sure that they know the environment very well. So they need to know the infrastructure, they need to know the software, they need to know the devices that are in use, because as more automation as you bring in place, more you want to have things run smoothly without any interruption, because every time there's some interruption, you probably are going to lose money because you want to fix the issue rather than having the system doing everything for us. When it comes to security, it's all about cybersecurity. We're talking here not only about basic security like antivirus, like patch management, mail, or backup, but we're talking also about forensic tools that allow you also forensic monitoring, such as endpoint detection and response, such as SIEM software that allow you to detect issues before they're even happening. On backup, we have a fully disaster recovery as a service plan, which includes also self-testing the solution. Every month you run a test on all the backups that you have to see if they're still working. On cloud, we're talking also about application and SaaS-based management. And, we're still acting as a CTO, but, you have now managed to get the full trust of all your customers for the solution. Now, we have a bunch of products that we are supporting. And before I hand over to Jonathan, just let me give you an overview of all the products that we support so that you have a better understanding of what you can expect from our solution. So first of all, we have two platforms. One is the SolarWinds Essential platform, which is mainly bought for on-premise environments. And the other one is a SolarWinds RMM platform, which is only SaaS-based. As you can see, both platforms include the same subset of features, which could be patch management, antivirus, backup, web protection, remote access, endpoint detection and response, automation, monitoring. So the difference between those two products is that if you have already a big install base of devices that you are leveraging already a monitoring solution and it is on premise, then probably you want to go with Essential because you have the requirement for being on premise, you have certain amount of devices, you want to go very deep into the monitoring, then probably Essential is the better solution. If you are new to the MSP business, but you want something that is SaaS, you don't want to deal with infrastructure, you want to focus more on growing your business very slowly, then probably RMM is the right solution because it's very easy to deploy, very easy to understand, and Jonathan is going to walk you through a demo in a shortly minute, which makes everything very easy for you as an MSP to start actually becoming an MSP, right? On top, there are additional tools. The additional tools are partially also completely integrated in those platforms, but sometimes you have also the scenario where you have already a solution, but you like that specific solution from us and you want to just take it as a standalone. That's also possible. So we have a SolarWinds backup solution, which is a full backup and disaster recovery suite. You have SolarWinds Mail Assure, which allows you to filter and archive incoming and outgoing emails. SolarWinds State Control, it's a valid alternative to other remote connection tools, which, by leveraging our monitoring platform, you can benefit from the single sign-on and manage also all the attendant devices rather than just the unattended devices. SolarWinds Risk Intelligence is a sort of financial analytical tool that provides you insight of what kind of data is actually located on the single machine, and it gives you a very nice calculation on what would actually cost you if you would lose that device today or if you would get affected by ransomware. It provides also insight of which employees have access to certain files so that you can make sure that undesired access is prevented. SolarWinds MSP Manager is our PSA or ticketing solution. As you can imagine, all those products are generating reports and alerts and notifications, and it's a nice way to collect all these alerts centralized into one single program, which you can then manage and assign to your support department by specific SLAs. You can make sure that specific customers get charged a specific rate if it is out of hours, or you can prioritize tickets. But the main benefit of the solution is that you have the ability that you can track the time that your employees are spending to fix issues or your customers. And you can make sure that you understand that if what you're providing in terms of services is worth the money that you are getting in, or if you need to adjust your contracts with the customers. The other solution is Passportal and documentation management. As the name is saying, it's a pure password management tool that allows you to collect all the passwords from your customers, manage them for all the devices that you have under management, but it provides you also a documentation management part. And as you know, every technician is only good in the environment if there's also a good documentation that supports you, which allows him also to, write notes and inform other employees about specific critical devices where a bit more of attention is required before you start, for example, updating the machine. The nice thing of this product is also that it allows also to resell this service to his end customers, right? As me as an MSP, I'm managing all the devices for my end customers. My end customers probably are having also passwords that they are not under management, which could be their own home banking account, their own email account. So you can make sure that you can resell these services to your customers by saying, look, I'm using this product to manage all your devices. You can use the same product that I'm using to manage your own passwords, which allows them to, recoup some of the money that they are investing for our solution and provide also an additional services in managing passwords of their customers. And by this, I would like to hand over to Jonathan, who is now going to give us some product demo overview. Thank you very much. Jonathan, you're mute probably.
I'm muted. Am I muted? Oh, that's terrible.
We can hear you now, John.
I was just telling everybody that I'm phoning in from Scotland, and I can say that proudly today because it's very sunny outside. So after this call, I'm going to go outside and enjoy the lovely weather. Let me start my screen sharing. So screen 2. So thanks to Francesco for just going through everything that we offer. I was just going to touch on mainly some of the security aspects of the dashboard. I know that there's a lot of RMM tools out there who all do an okay or decent job of monitoring. They allow you to take control of devices, they allow you to do a little bit of monitoring, and perhaps they allow you to do a little bit around automation as well, which is a great starting point for any up-and-coming aspiring MSP. The more customers you get and the more automation you need, and the more proactive monitoring that you're going to want to put in place, the smaller tools are probably not something that I would consider to be fit for the larger MSPs or the MSPs who are managing over maybe a couple of hundred endpoints. It starts to become a bit more complex, and you want to look for a solution that's built to allow you to manage that number of devices. So I know that, as I say, a lot of you do take control using alternative tools. A lot of you will do monitoring. So I'm going to concentrate on some of the stuff that perhaps you don't do as part of your offering on a day-to-day basis, and how you can wrap security as a service, because that's where a lot of the market's moving to. A lot of customers are becoming a lot more security conscious. Customers are becoming a lot more security conscious. The increase in ransomware, the increase in malware that's coming out every single day means that no longer is it sufficient to just manage an endpoint. You need to fully manage the customer's security as well and help protect against that. Francesco mentioned earlier about our Success Center, which is our online training material that you can access. We also have live webinars with security experts, with backup experts, with automation experts, people who have been in the business longer than I've been on this planet, 20, 30, 40 years worth of experience. Being able to tap into those people's ideas and being able to sell this to your customers is going to make you a more profitable organization as well. It'll also allow you to keep and retain your customers for longer. 80% of customers that leave an MSP leave as a direct result of a security breach. Now, you could tell your customers to be cautious. You can train your staff into how to look for phishing emails, but ultimately, if an attack gets through your network, evades your antivirus, and starts to encrypt your customers' folders, and they will hold you responsible for that, and they will potentially or likely start to look for a new MSP. So that's why I wanted to ensure that your business revenue was protected by going through some of the security stuff that SolarWinds offers. I should point out that because this is a cloud-based platform, we do implement out of the box a couple of security settings to help protect your clients, because ultimately MSPs are probably one of the #1 targets for hackers. Why go after a customer when you can go after an MSP and get all their customers. So you guys are considered to be a high risk target. So we want to help protect you. So we offer two-factor authentication, and we also offer you the ability to ring fence your IP address in which you connect to the dashboard as well. Okay, so we have two forms of security in the dashboard which will help protect you from being a target, because as soon as someone gets access to any of your online platforms, they have the ability to run malware, ransomware scans on your customers' devices, etc. We don't want that. Okay, we'll look at the stuff that's built into the RMM dashboard just now. So under settings, what we have here is we have multiple tools that you can use. So the take control is the ability to connect onto your customers' devices. This is actually quite a powerful take control. So take control, which I'm showing you now, integrates with password management. So one of the major security concerns around MSPs is managing passwords. How do they stop a staff member who's left the company accessing credentials? How do we know what credentials they've got access to? How can we store passwords so that only our second and third line guys have got access to Active Directory, this type of stuff? It fully integrates into our take control. So here I am connecting onto a server. I want to securely pass encrypted passwords into that server without copy and pasting, or without giving access to the first line technicians. Find the server, click autofill, password will be input into the dashboard. Okay, so that's very, very basic integration into Passportal, but at the same time, it's a much more secure way of managing your passwords. Once you're connected onto the device, you have multiple different options here that perhaps you don't get with some of the more basic stuff. For example, you have the ability to record the session. So for legal purposes, you can record the session. You also have the ability to shut down the device, pop the device into safe mode, allow you to regain connection on the device coming up, that type of stuff. You have the ability to do audio calls, video calls. You also have the ability to enable things like remote printers. You have file transfer. All this is wrapped around the take control service. If I exit the screen, okay, that screen will lock because I've exited it on a server policy. It will lock the screen so that no one can see what I've been doing, or no one can access that device once I've logged off it. We also offer remote background functionality. So not always is it possible for you to connect onto your customers' devices because they're working. You can do remote background, which is going to give you access to command line, PowerShell. It's going to give you access to file transfer, etc., all from the comfort of your own desktop without interfering with your client. We also offer managed antivirus as part of this as well. So we have partnered up with two AV companies. The first is Bitdefender. So that's more your traditional antivirus with a little bit of behavioral analysis built into it. So it's still reliant upon signature-based downloads to do a lot of the detection of threats before they run. After they run, there is a behavioral management engine which takes over and injects itself into the running processes and manages or gets an idea of what they're doing. To turn on managed antivirus, you simply go into settings, and what you have the ability to do is create something called a policy. Now, a policy is what determines how a threat is detected or how potentially a threat is remediated. So if I was to go into manage antivirus policies, you can see here that I've got a policy enabled. You can see what types of scans I'm doing, when I'm orchestrating scans. We also have something called Disk Encryption Manager. So again, to help you build on your security stack, we know that a lot of customers legally will have to have some form of BitLocker or some form of disk encryption enabled on their device. Bitdefender enables BitLocker on your machine, encrypts your connected drive. So anything that's a fixed drive, it will encrypt the drive and pass the encryption key back to the dashboard for you to report on. So if a client needs to replace his hard drive and asks for the encryption key, you can generate that encryption key for them without the need to store it in a messy CSV file or something along those lines. Okay, so that's one of the security antiviruses that we offer. The second one, which you guys will be aware of because I believe it originated out of Israel, is SentinelOne. So SentinelOne has taken the AV industry and dragged it up a little bit. they've developed an endpoint detection and response tool, which is normally sold to large enterprise customers. For example, majority of the top 10 biggest customers in the US are using SentinelOne as their AV. Now, these are companies who have billions, if not trillions of dollars in turnover. They have security budgets probably bigger than the UK's security budget as a country. So these are huge companies. They have and they've put their faith, after many proof of concepts with many different vendors, they've put their faith into SentinelOne as their endpoint detection and response. Now, this is really good for SolarWinds because there's not any other MSPs, as far as I'm aware, that are partnering, or sorry, any other RMM solutions that are partnering up with SentinelOne. SentinelOne normally sell to enterprise level customers. So to get this, you need to spend a small fortune. You need to buy thousands of licenses and you need to sign up for like 3-year commitments. Being able to offer this to your customers is going to be a great advantage to you, because not all your customers will be happy with the likes of Bitdefender, Symantec, Sophos, Webroot. They're just not really fit for today's modern threats. Fileless malware, ransomware attacks, these types of threats are becoming more and more increasingly common. And we'll talk about in a minute how they can evade detection. So this is something that you can offer your clients as a better level of protection. As I say, the better the protection you give your customers, the happier your customers are going to be long term. They're going to have less downtime. They're going to have less ransomware, less, as I say, data loss, and that ultimately is going to result in you maintaining your customers for longer periods. So definitely, if you're in the market for picking an RMM solution, do ask them about their security. If it's just the one security engine that they offer and it's traditional antivirus has its weaknesses, and SentinelOne will help plug those weaknesses and make sure that you keep a customer for longer. It also has rollback functionality built into it as well. I'm not going to show you the rollback video, but essentially, if you are encrypted or if you are infected with ransomware, you have the ability to remediate and roll back those files to the previous state. So you can bring an entire network of devices that are encrypted back online again within around about 90 seconds without having to rely upon your backup. Okay. So as I say, because we want to help offer customers a layered security. A layering of security just means different protection at different levels. So if you have just AV, that's just endpoint detection or endpoint prevention. And the risk with that is, if it doesn't work, you've nothing to fall back on. Okay, so if you stagger your layered security, as Francesco mentions, if you turn on the likes of mail filtering will probably help prevent around about 34, or mail protection and web protection will stop around about 34% of malware and ransomware attacks on your device alone. And that's a preventative measure. So you're not allowing malware or ransomware onto the machine, you're detecting it before it gets there and blocking it. We have Passportal, which is our password management tool as well, which is your ability to manage your customers' passwords. It also allows you the ability to resell this to your clients, so they can manage their own passwords. You can manage your own documentation, SSL certificates. You can do automated password resets. So for example, if a staff member was to leave, you can push one button and it will reset the credentials that they've currently got access to. Okay, so very, very powerful. This tool is in particular interest to you guys because this tool was actually designed by an MSP owner. So an owner of a successful MSP in the US decided that there wasn't a tool out there that fit the needs for the MSP market. So they built this tool specifically with you guys in mind. So this is definitely worthwhile looking at this from a security point of view as well. So as I say, web mail filtering will allow you to prevent the threat from coming onto the network in the first place. Helps with things like phishing attacks as well via email. If the attack evades your web, your email filtering, then there's a good chance your AV detection will detect it. If it doesn't detect it, okay, so if the threat's sitting idle on the machine collecting data, it's going to need to pass that data back to the cloud, okay, to initiate phase 2 of the attack. Phase 2 will often come from another download. So what you have in place to help protect against that is this little icon here. This little icon is web protection. So if I was to go into my policies, web protection, protection policies, you can have as many web protection policies as you want. You can have one for each of your customers. So for example, I've got one here called block adult gambling and social networking. If I go onto that, you'll see here, I have the ability to restrict via content. So if something is adult pornography or sex education or gambling, is blocked by default. If it's social networking, so LinkedIn, Facebook, that type of stuff, then we can have the ability to block that as well. So productivity loss is something that we can help against. So anytime that your connection, or you make a connection to the internet, you're passing data to the cloud. We will monitor where that data goes. And if it goes somewhere that we consider to be malicious, phishing, a botnet, a spam URL, anything that looks like it's going to cause you potential harm, we have the ability to block that packet of data and therefore give your client a little notification telling them that the page has been blocked. And that's going to make sure that around about 34% of the malware ransomware attacks that you get will be greatly reduced by being more proactive with your security. Again, if this is evaded as well, then you have the ability to use your antivirus. And we would always encourage customers to have a strong backup as well, just in case everything else fails. Web protection also gives you the ability to do reporting as well. So if you want to build a report to tell your staff or tell your customers what their staff have been up to, that will help you identify any areas that the customers are going to that they perhaps shouldn't. On top of what I've shown you just now, we will quickly look at our backup offering as well, just because that is the final layer of the security implementation. So we have integrated backup. So if I look at this device here, for example, and I right click on this and I go to backup and recovery, I can open up our backup manager, okay, which looks like this. This will have a 28-day retention period built into it. So your customer accidentally deletes a file, or their file's been corrupted, or it's been attacked, and you want to be able to recover that data, you simply go into the system, choose the date that you want to restore from this list of 28 days, and you have the ability to restore those important files that were potentially damaged by just clicking on restore, and we will run through the restore process. If you want to back up on a more frequent schedule, then you can go into preferences and you can go into schedules and you can set a schedule to back up, i.e. every hour or twice a day, for example, if you want to do it that way. So by offering a layered security, you're going to prevent your customers from losing any important data. You will also maintain your customers for a longer period of time, because a customer who hasn't had any security breaches is, generally speaking, a quite happy customer. We also offer, and this is one of the major selling features of our RMM software, is our patching solution. So our patching solution is probably considered to be one of the most robust patching engines from any of the RMM industries out there. Okay, we offer Microsoft patches, and we also offer a wide variety of third-party applications as well. Again, it's worthwhile if you are in the hunt for an RMM solution. If they say we do third-party patching, check what patches they actually install. A lot of companies will say we do third-party patching, and if you look at the small print, it's Adobe and Java. That's pretty much it. Ours is a far wider variation of third-party applications. Chrome, Firefox, TeamViewer, Notepad++, Zoom, lots of these are third-party software that's installed and used on a daily basis by customers. So making sure that they are patched is quite important. I have an interesting slide here that I took from a last webinar that I was on. So this was a webinar that we did in regards to managed security. and this talk about the attack vectors. So 59% of attacks are carried out through RDP compromises. There's actually a website called shodan.io that you can register for, put your IP address in, and it'll show if you have any potential RDP sessions that are available for anyone to get access to. And it's actually quite a good tool because it actually, it takes a screenshot of your welcome screen and shows you who's logged in. And again, so there's a hacker who's potentially got your IP address and your username. And there's a lot of companies who will use potentially weak passwords. So pretty easily they can have your IP address, the username, and they can get your password. If they have those three pieces of information, you're compromised. Your clients are compromised. So that's quite a huge number in terms of attack vectors. So by just simply turning off remote desktop and offering a more secure solution like Take Control means that this 59% will be drastically reduced in terms of numbers. Okay. 34% of attacks were instigated through either web phishing attacks or email attacks. And that's what we're talking about with web protection and with email filtering. And the other 7% were through vulnerabilities in your software. So whilst that 7% is quite a low number, that potentially could increase quite happily. Okay, so it's important to make sure that you're up to date in terms of your patching. Now, the way that we do this is we have a patch management policy. And a patch management policy is something that you can configure for one policy and apply it to all your devices, or you can have multiple different policies and you can do your patching on multiple different days. So some customers might be weekly, some customers might be daily, some customers perhaps would be monthly, or some customers you will patch manually depending on the contract that you have with them. By going in here and creating a policy, you can just basically tell us when you want to install patches. So this policy is going to install patches Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. Now, it may be that I'm quite happy to reboot the devices at 9 p.m. on a Wednesday night, for example. Or I can opt to never reboot the devices, and then that way you have complete control over whether you want those devices to reboot or not. Now, what this will pre-install is anything that we've pre-approved. So we have pre-approved, in this case, anything that Microsoft released that's a critical and important update. And the same with the third-party vendors as well. So your Adobes, your Javas, your Firefox, all those major applications that are likely to be installed across endpoints are going to be protected automatically. Okay, so anything that's a security update will be automatically patched. And that's something that a lot of companies require for compliance purposes, okay, is the ability to patch security updates within a certain period of time. Every single morning, we will do a scan on your device to tell you if you're missing any patches, to tell you if you have any patches that have recently been installed, this type of stuff. If you're only automatically installing your security updates, you might want to think about how you're going to do your Windows 10 feature updates and how you're going to do your moderate and low and other patches. So by going into the management workflow, you can simply say, show me all patches that are potentially missing across multiple customers. And you can just generate a report. That report will show you any patches that are missing. So say, for example, this was a critical patch. Now it's not, let's say it was. I can proceed, I can approve, and I can install that across any of my endpoints. I can do it now, I can do it later today, or I can do it as part of my existing schedule, click apply, and that patch will start to push out. Now you can also use this as a way to potentially remediate a patch that's gone wrong. So say, for example, you installed a patch last night, this one here, for example, and it's caused performance issues across your 2012 R2 servers. Okay, so there's 12 machines that are poorly functioning as a direct result of that patch being installed. Proceed, uninstall, choose your customers that you want to uninstall it from, click apply, and we will go ahead and remove that patch for you. Okay, so you can remediate patching from here as well. Let's say a client asks for a report. It may be they ask for a take control report or a patch management report or a web protection report. You can generate the report for them. Now, what you can also do in here, which you won't be able to do in some of the competitor tools. Some of the competitor tools that we have, they price per technician. Now, the initial appeal of that is quite good because pricing per technician, if you only have one technician, this is going to be a really affordable way to get into the MSP market. But let's say a customer says to you, hey, I want you to manage my IT, but I want to be able to get access to the dashboard to do my own take control sessions. I want to get access to run my own reports. Suddenly paying $79 or $100 or whatever it is per month per technician is not necessarily going to be a useful tool for you, because you're not going to be able to give your clients level access. By going into the dashboard here, creating a user, you can give a particular user access to only a certain group of clients or only one client, and you can restrict their access through roles and permissions. So when this user logs in, they will be restricted in their roles and they will only get access to European software services. Therefore, they can run their own reports, they can do their own patching, they can do their own take control. Okay, all that is securely managed by the fact that you're restricting their access and restricting their access to the client as well. So that is definitely a functionality and a feature that you only get if you spend a little bit more money and you go with a more advanced tool, shall we say. Okay, so I've covered off everything that I wanted to cover off from a layered security point of view. So just to summarize, the RMM agent that is deployed does do monitoring checks. Okay, these checks are done for you automatically. These checks can also trigger an automated task to run, which we have built for you in the system. So these tasks that we've built here are all tasks that you can use straight away. So there'll be probably 100 or so tasks in here that are built straight away. If you go into the Success Center, which both myself and Francesco touched on a little bit earlier, and I type in, let's see, script, there's another 350 or so scripts that are available to you to get access to from the dashboard. So if you need to, you can come in here and you can download any of the scripts that we've got into the system, built into the system for you. Okay, so there's about 350 in total here. We've touched on patch management, which is it's a major selling feature for our dashboard because it's a very robust product. We also internally own nearly everything that I've shown you today, from mail, web protection, backup, patch management. The only features that we don't own in our dashboard are actually Sentinel-1 and Bitdefender. Everything else is owned by SolarWinds, managed by SolarWinds, and therefore it's our responsibility to make sure that your requirements are met. So if you have a feature request and you need to raise it to us, that can be implemented far easier than it would be if it was a third-party application plugin like Splashtop or Screen Connect or something like that that's managed externally. We manage everything ourselves internally, apart from the AV side of things. Okay, I don't think I have a huge amount of time left. I don't know if there's been any questions on that.
Yes, yes, there are. Just a moment. I would like you to speak a few words about the NetPet.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah,
afterwards, 2 points. First of all, let's talk about the NetPet for very short.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the advantages of obviously partnering up with SolarWinds is the fact that SolarWinds is kind of split into two companies. We've got SolarWinds MSP, which is N-Central and RMM. It does the mail, does the backup, and we also have SolarWinds Core. Now, you may already have SolarWinds products for your more advanced network monitoring. One of their major selling features is a tool called NetPath. And what NetPath is it's basically like a very, very fancy traceroute, for example. So being able to identify if there's any performance issues or if there's any latency or packet loss within your network or within the ISP network, or even more importantly, within the third-party network that belongs to like Microsoft. So if you are connecting to Office 365, what this does, this is my endpoint. My endpoint reaches out to my firewall, my router, and then starts leaving my internal network, and it starts to go into my ISP. After it leaves my ISP, we can start to look and expand and go into Microsoft's environment. So this is what a reasonably straightforward path looks like. So as you can see, in the probably early 90s, you'd see this kind of packet trace. So one hop to another, there's not necessarily much in the way of load balanced. Okay, so you'd have a direct connection. Now, with technology, this gives you the ability to monitor any load paths, any load balanced routes as well. So you can see here, this packet splits into 2 packets, or 3 different, it goes either this way, that way, or it goes this way. So 3 different hops or paths that data can take. We start looking as if we can actually go down and drill down and see how long it took between this hop here and this hop here. So 0% packet loss and 114 milliseconds. So that's not going to generate a failure on our side. To generate a failure on our side, you can change, you can set the packet loss, you can set the latency, and we will start alerting you if any of your packets of data are taking longer than 250 milliseconds, or if you want to set your latency as low as 114, then that potentially could generate a warning or an alert, which will send to you. But this gives you the ability to help monitor site-to-site access, potentially VPN access, any access to web application servers or anything like that can be monitored using NetPath, and we'll send you a report. You can even go back in time. So if a client says to you, hey, last week we had problems trying to access this website, providing you're monitoring it, you can actually go back by using these options here. And this will go back to the previous day, for example. And you can start identifying on the 23rd of May if there's any performance issues at 10 o'clock in the morning, for example. So this is highly powerful. This is, as I say, part of the network performance monitoring of the core side of things. There will be plans to implement better network device monitoring, the ability to connect onto network devices, being able to back up your network files, seeing your network configuration files. If there's changes made to those network configuration files, what were those changes? Can we reverse those changes? This is the type of functionality that we are looking to build into the system. And again, because the technology exists on the core side of it, it's realistic for us to expect that to happen on our side. If you have a tool that doesn't have any of that, they would have to build that from scratch, which takes years and years of work and development. Whilst this is already built, it's just a case of how do we integrate it into the dashboard to make it user-friendly for our clients to take advantage of.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. And now there is one question about the endpoint security.
Yep.
The question is pronounced like this. Are this a full EDR?
That is a full EDR solution.
Excuse me?
The Sentinel one is a full EDR solution.
Yes.
Yeah. It doesn't. You don't require like a security operations center to manage that though. All the data intelligence analysis, that's all carried out by the endpoint, and it's all, like, for example, this threat here. This, if I go into Explore, you'll see here the initial process was launched. If I click on the initial process, you'll see here there's not, all it did was 2 things. It created 2 further processes. Okay, so if I click on the second process, you'll see here, this secondary process that was spun off as a result of the initial process running has 157 files modified. 9 outbound network connections were made, and there was multiple indicators that told us that why this was looked like a threat. So if I was to go down here, for example, you'll see here, these are the behavioral indicators. So a suspicious WMI query was carried out. So there's multiple suspicious WMI queries carried out. If I go into the network actions, you can see here there was multiple outbound network connections that were made. And you can see here, more importantly, which files were modified. So which files were created, which files were changed. If there was files that were deleted, they're also collected here. So this is all the SOC analysis done on the endpoint, passed up to the Sentinel-1 dashboard, and then simply, if you would like to remediate that, but this has actually already been remediated, but you simply click on Actions, Mitigate Actions, and you click on Rollback, and that has the ability to take all the files that were created and delete them, all the files that were modified, all the files that were deleted as a result of that process running will be restored to the last successful restore stage, which is usually around about every 4 hours.
Okay, thank you very much. So now another issue that we wanted to speak about is the in compared to Otera. So probably, as you can see, everybody, that the food services and all the features that are built in and the extra application for SolarWinds are quite full in compared to Otera. And I hope this is an answer to this question. Now I can see there are more questions. Just a moment, let's see. About the EDR. Full EDR, it means you can search anything without any trigger. Since SentinelOne is called DV, deep visibility, and don't see.
Yeah, so deep visibility is something, obviously SentinelOne does deep visibility, it does threat hunting. Those are not modules that SolarWinds has bought just now. So ours it's classified as complete. So SentinelOne do different licenses. They do core and they do complete. Our model is complete, but no deep visibility or threat hunting. That I'm sure will come, but it's not something that we've got access to at the moment. So if that's what they were asking, then apologies. We don't have threat hunting or deep visibility, not just yet, but there will be plans, I'm sure, to have that built into the system.
Okay, thank you very much, Jonathan.
No problem.
Gentlemen, some more questions that we have here to the SolarWinds people?
I have a question for your customers, Jonathan, if that's okay.
Yes.
And I just wonder if, so SentinelOne, I believe, is Israeli, so obviously where you guys are based. Is this something that you guys hear a lot of, or is it, I mean, I know that it's big in the US, but is it something that, because it's local to you guys, is this a tool that you've seen before or used before?
It is, let's spread it over, it is a known. It is if it has this feature that you have talked about, so it might be more spread, but this needs to be checked further.
Okay, fair enough.
Just a moment, I think we have another question. Okay, so no more question about it, as I can see. So gentlemen, if there is any more questions, this is the time.
Yeah, I would just say to your clients that, I'd say a lot of the MSPs that we talk to, monitoring is the absolute least that you can offer your clients. A lot of our customers are moving to the security industry, so they are looking to become more of a managed security service provider. We as a company realize the importance of data security, and that's the reason why I kind of focused around those areas, because long term, just doing simple basic monitoring is not going to be enough. You're going to need to be able to prove that value add to your customers. You're going to need to be able to show to them exactly how they can help protect your data, because data at the end of the day is incredibly important. If that data is leaked on the dark web, how much potentially is that going to cost your customer? I mean, a lot of companies don't survive from a successful ransomware attack. They'll go out of business, and we don't want that, because customers have got it hard enough without having to worry about threats. So we want to be able to arm our customers with the latest and best in terms of detection, response, and prevention, and give that as an option to your customer. You don't have to have everything. Don't get me wrong. You don't need to have web protection, mail protection, backup, an advanced EDR. But the more layers you add in, the less likely you are to get infected or that. So definitely take away that. If nothing else, take away the fact that when you choose an RMM solution, make sure that you offer that layered security as built in of it, part of it.
This is correct. As Jonathan mentioned, you can choose whatever features you like. Of course, there is the basic, and you can add upon them the full service. It's up to you. Okay. I think that there are no more questions, and I want to thank Francesco and Jonathan for the wonderful presentation and demo. And I think this is it for today.
Okay, thank you everybody, and enjoy your Monday.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Take care everyone. Bye for now.
Have a nice day.
Bye.